Okay, y'all, so I realized that yesterday I was actually supposed to put out a guide on the basics of the game, but for some reason I didn't think, like, it didn't click in my brain that now that this is coming to mobile, these are probably actually new players. Like, I thought that people were just trolling me and trying to fuck with me because that's what they do in the actual game. People like mess around and just do the wrong thing, and you're like, you get used to it. So it's definitely my bad that I put out that troll ass video yesterday. But today, I'm legit going to, like, if you're new to the game, I'm legit going to teach you some things. It's also worth pointing out that there's some inconsistencies with this and the actual game too, so it can be a little bit different. So there are a bunch of ways to play this game and make all sorts of different types of team compositions, but the general consensus for team composition is there's going to be one lane that has 2 people in it. That lane is going to be comprised of a ranged attack damage carry unit that is a long-range basic attacker. They're going to have a support for that ranged attack damage carry unit, and the support is going to be able to provide supportive spells and buffs to help heal, you know, defend, or just basically help the ranged attack damage carry achieve their goals, which we can get to in a minute. The mid lane is going to be sort of the watchful eye of the entire match. If you're in the mid lane, you are closest to every other lane, so you are kind of the protector of the map, right? As a mid laner, you're close enough to get a couple jungle mobs from the enemy team. You're close enough to gank for your bottom lane. Ganking is where you come in and you help them secure kill, or you could even gank for your top lane. Or a lot of mids just like to stay in mid and farm as much gold as they possibly can, because the mid, just sort of like the mage of this game, you'll be doing, you know, magic damage instead of physical damage. So the dragon lane is usually called the top lane because in this game, for some reason, they have the ability to rotate the map depending on what side you're on, which doesn't really make too much sense to me, and I won't go ahead and get too much into that. But basically, in the actual game, you don't have to worry about the map rotating because the map is, you know, basically symmetrical on both sides. But in this game, they decided to make it sometimes your duo lane. It used to just be the 2 duo lane in the bot, just called the bot lane. Then you had the mid lane. Then whoever was going to the dragon lane used to be called the top lane because it was at the top of the map, and it never rotated, never switched. Now for some reason they're rotating and switching it. I don't know why. So just keep a watchful eye out for which lane is labeling as a duo lane, because I don't know if players, the game is still relatively new, I don't know if players are going to conform to that and actually start using the duo lane in the top lane whenever the map says to do that. But for the most part, you can just go duo bot and then someone on top, and that's how over 10 million games have been played up to this day whenever they decided to make this change. So for the dragon lane, I'm going to be referring to as the top lane just because I've been referring to it as top lane for over a decade, and I think it'll be easier to explain using terms and, you know, strategies that I already know. So in top lane, we have what's called a top laner, or a dragon laner, I guess now, but a top laner is basically somebody who is extremely self-sufficient and can just stand there by themselves, sustain themselves, support themselves, and put as much pressure on that top lane as possible. The top lane is sometimes considered an island, in which case top lane doesn't really worry about ganking. Top lane is just purely about control of the top side of the map. So if your top laner is winning, you have a little bit of control over a portion of their jungle. If their top lane is winning, then they have a little bit of portion control over your jungle, as well as that's where one of the important jungle objectives is. It's usually the Baron Nashor is always in top, but now that they're able to switch it, sometimes it can be the dragon in the top lane. But either way, those can be very important jungle objectives to control. So the top laner is purely just about being sustainable, staying up there as long as they can, farming as much experience as they can, so that usually just a lone wolf up there focused on themselves. And they will be able to help support team fights even more. Again, team fights are just whenever fights are happening on the map with more than one member of your team and you want to be there to help. And the last role is going to be the jungler. The jungler is exactly what it sounds like. It's somebody that starts off in the jungle, kills monsters in the jungle, and just has control of all of the experience inside of the jungle, so that that experience does not go to waste. The buffs don't go to waste, and it gives the jungler complete map control freedom to go and gank whatever lane they want. The jungler can gank the bottom lane, he can gank for the top lane, he can gank for the mid lane, and try and secure as many kills as he possibly can, as well as the major weight of the jungle objectives, such as the dragon and the Baron Nashor and the Rift Scuttler, and all of those jungle objectives are going to be mostly the responsibility of the jungler. Next, we can look at all the champions that are available to us, and this is where, you know, it gets a little bit more interesting. Like how the usual gacha games that some of the mobile players are used to, there's definitive tier lists of who is the best, right? So that can sometimes be the case in this game, but the thing is, every single character is going to be viable. There will be a team composition, or there will be a strategy where every single character can come out on top. So if you decide to come down here and you decide that you like Corki and you want to get Corki, it is not going to hinder you in your performance, because a lot of these characters, even popular streamers of this game, can tell you that practice makes perfect. The tier list is constantly changing based on who is the best with that character at the time. Everyone's kit is entirely unique. You do not have to there's no best team composition. And that's the other thing, is if you're picking one unit, you're not picking the other four of your team, unless you are just doing a private team at home and you have complete control of everyone else in your room. But at the same time, there is a unit to fit everyone's playstyle. So what I would recommend, if you are just starting out and you are not at all having any idea what to do a co-op versus AI and just play a bot match with every character, everyone you have unlocked, so that you could see how they're performing. Do one with Mundo and see if you like his moveset. If you don't, move on. Do one with Braum. If you don't like it, move on. Do one with Lulu. Don't like her, move on. Do one with Vayne. And you know what? This is actually going to help you in more ways than you just learning how the characters work for you to use. You also kind of need to understand all of these characters' skill sets as well, so that you know what to look out for in a team fight. So you do want to get to know what everyone does, and practice makes perfect for doing that. And the only way to really know how a character works is to play them yourself, because you can have seen an Ahri be played 1,000 times, but that doesn't mean that you know exactly, how much damage her abilities do, how much her abilities increase whenever she gets ability power, how much the stun increases, or how much the snare increases. Like, you need to play the characters in order to understand them. And the thing is, you need to understand every character so that no matter what team you're fighting against, you know what you're up against. I think the biggest thing I get new players with is playing Zed and them not knowing how Zed works, because they're behind their tower and they are thinking, I'm going to go back behind the tower. No one can hit me behind this thing. It's a freaking indestructible tower. And then, of course, as Zed, I can send out my shadow that extends my range twofold, and I can teleport to my shadow. I can use my ult to teleport. There's just a lot going on with this kit that I've gotten very used to that maybe new players aren't used to knowing. So you do want to find a character you like and start playing them a lot. But also, while you're getting very good at that character you like, make sure you play everybody at least once so that you can have a general idea of how their abilities work. Now that you found a character you like, we'll go ahead and pretend it's Ahri, because she is by far one of the most popular characters. What you're going to want to notice is where she is being used. Ahri generally is a mid laner. She is a mid lane champion. She is an ability power carry. All of her abilities increase effectiveness based on how much ability power she has. So that would make her a mid laner, and you can use her most effectively in the mid lane. So if we've decided to pick Ahri and you want to make her one of your main focuses, what we can do is we can go down and then click this little sword and shield right here, where it will give us a loadout. Select your character, which we will be selecting Ahri. And now it already has for you a preset recommended items list for items for you to buy in-game. I would recommend going, and if you click the arrow next to the items list and click magical, it will tell you every single item that is pretty much effective for your character in the game. And sometimes you can go with defensive items for both AD carries and ability power carries. But one thing is for sure, you are going to want some boots. So definitely make sure you integrate boots into your build so that you can start getting move speed early on. If you are an attack damage unit, focus on physical weapons. If you are an ability power unit, focus on magic weapons. And if you are a tanker, if you are a tank or a support, someone that needs to stay alive and soak most of the damage for your team, definitely I would suggest defensive items. But now the thing about this is there are a lot of recommended builds to where if you go on a website called Mobifier and type in Ahri, they have been pretty much extensively researching builds for these units for many, many years, and you can find what the best items are actually going to be for that unit for the most part. Situationally, different items will be better in different situations, but there are some items that are just generally good at all times, like the Rabadon's Death Cap. It gives you the most ability power possible of any item, and that being said, if your abilities are being enhanced by ability power, this will almost certainly be a good pick on every single magic user out there. So if you go on Mobifier and you look at the top rated builds, you can also see if people enjoyed the build or not, because they will be rated, and some of them have thousands of ratings. If you pick one that has a lot of good ratings, then it would probably be a good idea to go ahead and then reset some of these recommended items in there. Now these builds are also going to tell you about runes. What runes are is they're basically little passive effects that you get for your character that whenever you have this rune set equipped, it's going to enhance your character in different ways, and you can change this and use it on any role. And last are going to be the summoner spells. We have summoner spells, which are just basically extra active abilities that you can use that have a cooldown that help enhance your character and make them more effective at what you want them to do. The most popular one, and I will go ahead and let you know, is always going to be Flash. What Flash does, I can actually go ahead and download the video for you so you can see. What Flash does, if we see right here, you're able to use it to teleport to your cursor's location at a certain range. You know, once you get to, it only has a limited amount of range, but you could also use it to flash through objects, flash through champions, flash through minions, flash through monsters, flash through walls. It's a very, very crucial summoner spell, so you will always be wanting to take Flash. And for the 5 roles, there are some summoner spells that can be recommended for those roles. You can of course switch them up based on your playstyle. If you are a ranged attack damage carry in the duo lane, you will be wanting to take heal as sort of like an oh crap button to recover some of your health if you are going to die. If you are a supporter in the duo lane, you might want to take exhaust as an extra way to help suppress the enemy if they are overwhelming you. You can use the exhaust to stop them from being so powerful. As the jungler, you will want to take smite because smite just takes out a huge portion of a jungle monster's HP and also recovers some of your own HP to help sustainability in the jungle. The mid lane is going to want to usually bring ignite because the mid is just pretty much a duel to the death, and then whoever has the most control over the mid lane has the most freedom to go and gank, go back and buy, or sit and farm. Ignite is a good way to ensure that you can get a kill, and then getting a kill sets you in the perfect position to do whatever you need to do. And in the dragon lane, there are so many different compositions that are so many different units that it can be hard to choose, and the general ability that people bring is called teleport, which is not in this game, so I would go ahead and recommend just bringing whichever summoner spell is good for your character, which will also be available on that Mobile Fire guide. A few general tips that could be helpful for any lane is if a minion is close to dying and then you can get the last hit that kills them, you will get bonus gold. It is called last hitting a minion, and you always want to do this whenever possible to get as much gold as you possibly can because the items are what make or break you in this game. The faster you can get more items, you can start getting the full effectiveness of your build, start doing as many, MLG plays as you need to do with your items, and then that's pretty much where all of your stats come from as well as your items. So getting gold as fast as possible is going to be a priority. That being said, you also need to balance getting gold with helping your team because you can't just be sitting there farming gold the entire match, or else the enemy team will be overwhelming probably your teammates as you're sitting there. The enemy team has all 5 of them versus 4 of your team, which makes it an unfair fight because you're farming too much gold. So definitely find a balance between collecting the gold and then participating in objectives. Some of the important objectives are going to be jungle monsters such as the Baron Nashor, the Rift Scuttler, and the Dragon. Those are something that if you're available to help, you might always want to help do that. In the beginning of pretty much every match is just going to be the laning phase, the experience phase, where you're just getting a feel for your opponent, you're getting as much gold as you can through the last hits I was just talking about, and then you're leveling up, trying to get your full kit. So just sit there and last hit, level up, get as much gold as you can to start working on your build. And then after you have destroyed, once one of your towers has been destroyed, that's usually your cue to go and move on. If you destroy the enemy tower, if you're in the duo lane and you've destroyed the enemy duo lane tower, you're probably now free to jump from your duo lane to get to mid a little bit and try and help them destroy their tower. And then, once mid has destroyed their tower, they're free to, jump to the dragon lane. That being said, whenever the game first starts in that laning phase, your pretty much #1 priority is going to be protecting the tower that you're at, so that if the enemy gets the jumps on your towers, it's going to be harder for you to recover. And then also destroying a tower nets your entire team gold, so it's going to help everybody on the team, not just you. Once you have a few towers down, you're also going to want to start focusing on jungle objectives, like making sure you have buffs on your team at all time, making sure that you're the ones killing the dragon, making sure that you're the ones killing the Baron Nashor. And then once pretty much all the first initial towers are down, we're in the team fight phase, where we go back, we buy, we come in, farm as much lanes. We're just in and out of the lane at that point. You're in the lane, kill the minions, out of the lane, back to the team fights. Go to the team fights, try and get your team all grouped up versus their team all grouped up. Whoever comes out the victor usually takes a tower, and then you go back and forth with that until somebody wins the game. And that being said, sometimes objectives can be more important than kills. So if the enemy team has a lot more kills than your team does, but your team is actually destroying towers and actually getting jungle monsters, the team destroying towers and getting jungle monsters is probably going to win, because that's the main objective of the game, is to destroy the enemy tower, the one at the base called the Nexus. Once you destroy that, you win the game. So if the enemy is good at killing you, but not good at killing your towers, and you're destroying all their towers, you're going to end up winning the game. So that's generally a good basis for how to start the game. Now that you know pretty much just to select a character and start practicing with them, start practicing with every character, the game starts out pretty rough. It's kind of like Fortnite in that sense where you need to play a lot to get good, but you'll notice a little improvement with every single game. So if you want me to, just go ahead and let me know, and I'll put out a more extensive guide for every single role. I'll put out one for, AP carry. I'll put out one for jungler, and we could talk about that for a longer period of time, because what we've just done here sort of scratched the surface. But I felt a little bad because I told you with that video yesterday, and you really did need a guide, and I didn't know that, and I apologize. And also, if you have any questions, feel free to join my Discord. We have people of all different games in there. Just drop a meme, but don't be sensitive because we have fun. And other than that, y'all, that's going to do it for me today, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.